Imagine having a double life at 13 years old. Not only do you have to deal with typical teenage worries, the world of dating, friends, school, and hormones, but you also carry the weight of an extraordinary destiny. Sounds too much, doesn't it? Well, this is the life of Jake Long, who is half human, half dragon, and is in charge of maintaining the balance between these two worlds. So let's dive into one of the craziest teenage adventures of all time. But before we begin, here's a little context to refresh your memory. American Dragon Jake Long portrays the life of Jake, a 13-year-old boy whose lineage traces back to mythical beings, dragons. Well, his maternal family consists of dragons, while his paternal side doesn't have the slightest idea about it. It sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? His duty as a dragon is to care for and defend the magical creatures that secretly inhabit the human world from the Huntsclan, and keep the balance between the two worlds. Indeed, Jake's journey is filled with countless adventures, each of which is a step forward towards a deeper understanding, not only of the magical world, but also of his own identity and purpose. Before moving on, let's take a look at the characters who will accompany us throughout the journey. To start, obviously we have Jake, the first American dragon, as he is the first of his family to be born in this part of the world. He is a boy who really likes to skateboard, hang out with his friends, Spud and Trixie, and he has a huge crush on Rose. But to be honest, who doesn't? Spud is one of Jake's best friends. He's very loyal, and he's always there to give Jake a helping hand with anything. At first glance, it seems that he's a little slow, but don't be fooled. He's very intelligent and has great skills with technology.
Geniuses? Spud? I'm yelling. No!
He randomly knows exactly what to do in the weirdest moments. You'll see, Trixie is Jake's other best friend and his only girlfriend. Despite having a tomboyish character, being sassy and a little rude, she's very loyal and gives the best advice to Jake, especially regarding Rose. Lao Shi is Jake's grandfather. He's also half human, half dragon, and in his youth, he was known as the Chinese dragon. Gramps is Jake's mentor and is responsible for teaching Jake how to control his powers and everything else about the magical world. We also have Fu, his 600-year-old talking dog. Yeah, you heard that right, 600, with 2 zeros. Fu is his faithful companion and guardian. He's very good with potions and has broad knowledge about the magical world. I have mentioned Rose a lot, but who is she? Rose is Jake's crush. They go to the same school, and like Jake, Rose also has a double life. But before we unfold that mystery, let's go step by step. So go grab your popcorn and let's begin.
American Dragon.
The first episode, Old School Training, begins with Jake, Fu, and Gramps standing on the roof of a building, where Gramps explains to Jake which territory he must protect as a dragon, and all the magical beings that inhabit it. Of course, he will first have to master his powers as a dragon.
A little help down here?
At night, the trio goes out to the park when suddenly, Fu sniffs out a huntsman who's looking for unicorns. The perfect scenario for Jake to finally fight a huntsman completely alone, without anyone's help. Jake is excited, but will soon realize that he's not ready yet, as he's knocked down by a girl who appears out of nowhere.
Very nice, Huntsclan. Your training has served you well.
The next morning after school, Spud and Trixie invite him to skate, but he can't, since he'd promised Gramps to see him later that day. Jake, as clumsy as he is, when saying goodbye to his friends, bumps into Rose, and after talking with her for a while, he notices that she has a very cool tattoo on her hand. Of course, he doesn't miss the opportunity, and compliments it, to which Rose reveals that it's actually a birthmark.
Actually, it's a birthmark.
Jake arrives at Gramps' place ready to start his first day of old school dragon training. Totally excited until he finds out what he needs to do. Clean the whole house while using unpleasant techniques, like cleaning the toilet with his dragon tongue. Toilet brushes were invented for a reason. Back at home, Jake complains to his mother about Gramps' weird training techniques, but she doesn't pay much attention since she's preparing dinner with Haley, Jake's sister, who is also half dragon. That's when his dad arrives and everyone acts normal, since, again, he knows absolutely nothing about the magical world, that his family is half dragon, half human. Now that is one hell of a secret. Gramps is waiting for Jake to start his training, but he's out skating with his friends, thinking that his training is ultimately not worth it. Plus, he doesn't want to clean the house again. I can't blame him after that toilet ordeal. Ooh. Meanwhile, Gramps gets surprised by two members of the Huntsclan, and while putting up a good fight, he's knocked down. Fu, witnessing everything, runs directly to Jake for help, and after scolding him for not making it to training, they go together to save Gramps. The fight begins, and Jake gives it his all. Although at first it seems like he's losing, Gramps reminds him of all the moves he learned during training, like when he cleaned the bathroom with his tongue. Believe it or not, these moves score a win for Jake. But wait a minute, did you see that too? Doesn't that tattoo look familiar? Could it be? It can't be. Or can it? I guess we'll have to find out in the following episodes. Next up, we have the episode Dragon Breath, which begins with Gramps and Fu pushing Jake into a sewer in order to figure out what's down there, freaking everybody out. In the depths, Jake encounters an unknown creature that after a brief confrontation gets scared and flees when it sees Jake spit fire. The next day, on the way to school, Jake, Trixie, and Spud discuss the school dance, where Jake tells Trixie that he's going to ask Rose out.
Who you taking to the dance?
I'm gonna ask Rose.
Jake confidently walks towards Rose, but is accidentally hit by a locker door and falls to the floor. Rose, who saw everything, asks him if he's okay, creating the perfect opportunity for Jake to ask her about the dance. Sadly for him, Rose already has a date, but in order to appear desirable, he doesn't hesitate, and lies about having a date for the dance as well. While trying to keep up with this lie, Jake rushes to find a date, but all the girls run away from him because of his bad breath. Yeah, that'll do it.
I totally gargled right before lunch.
Take a breath mint. Actually, take the whole roll.
Fu, an expert in girls, dating, and potions, tries to cheer him up by giving him a potion for his bad breath and taking him to Magicville to try his luck there. Once in the Magicville, Jake lays his eyes upon a true hottie. He doesn't think twice and approaches her. Her name is Jasmine, and after talking for a while, she agrees to go to the dance with him. Of course, with the only condition of returning home early. Upon entering the party, everyone is baffled by how beautiful Jasmine is, but Jake is more curious about what Rose thinks. After dancing for a while, Jasmine insists that she should leave, but Jake is so into the dance that he doesn't pay attention at all.
It's getting late and I'm not feeling too well.
Oh, yeah, okay, just a couple more minutes.
As Jasmine is leaving, she gets stopped by Brad, Rose's date, who takes her back to the dancing floor. Jake, seeing that Rose is alone, seizes the opportunity and asks her to dance with him. Mission complete. Jake is having a blast with Rose when suddenly Jasmine transforms, revealing that she is a Nyx, a creature that steals souls. Oh boy. Now Jake understands why Jasmine wanted to leave the party so early. With the moon in the center of the sky, Jasmine's transformation occurs. I thought that was only werewolves, but I guess moon-based morphing is an epidemic. Anyway, Jake transforms into a dragon.
Right on. Time to go kick me some nicks.
And tries to distract Jasmine until Gramps and Fu come to the rescue. When Fu arrives with a potion to transform Jasmine back into a human, Jake accidentally takes it himself and returns to his original form. The only power he has left is his dragon breath, which ironically saves the night as it causes Jasmine to take her human form again, returning everyone's souls. What a lucky fella. In Episode 5, Act 4, Scene 15, we see Jake, Gramps, and Fu fighting the Huntsman and the Hunt's girl for a magical beetle, which, by the way, is caught by Fu. At school, as usual, Jake melts when seeing Rose. Trixie insists him to ask her out, to put an end to the doubt and his suffering. If Jake never takes the risk, how does he expect Rose to notice him? Jake gathers his courage and goes to Rose. But after exchanging a few words, he's interrupted by their teacher, who calls her to practice. Rose was selected by the drama club to play the beautiful Cleopatra. Luckily for Jake, she still doesn't have her Anthony. Jake, for some mysterious reason, gets the role and is seen rehearsing with Rose. Everything is going smoothly until it's time to rehearse the kiss scene. Jake wakes up. It turns out that everything was all a dream. Gramps tells him to stop dreaming and insists that they must return the insect to Egypt. In the meantime, the Huntsman and the Hunt's girl are talking about the magical beetle too. But stop everything. Did the mysterious Hunt's girl take off her mask? It's Rose! I did not see that coming. At school, Jake does get the role and invites Rose to rehearse with him at Gramps' store. Everything is under control until Rose tells him that they should go over the kiss scene, since it's the most important part of the play. Jake gets very nervous, and contrary to what we'd expect, he doesn't want to kiss Rose. Whoa. And on top of that, he ruins the moment by letting the insect escape. The rehearsals continue. However, they have a new problem. interruptions. They need to find a place where they can be completely alone. After several attempts, they are finally having a good rehearsal until the insect appears. Both of them make up an excuse and run off to transform, of course without revealing their secret identity to each other. After a brief fight between the American dragon and the Huntsgirl, the huntsman appears out of nowhere, taking the magical beetle with them. Back at the store, Jake, Fu, and Gramps are worried, because in the wrong hands, the insect's power could destroy everything. However, Fu assures them that they have one chance to prevent this from happening, and that is at night during the full moon. But there is a small detail. That's also the opening night for the play.
But tonight's the play! Which I can totally miss.
At school, Rose and Jake cross paths and simultaneously excuse themselves from the play. However, they also say they might be back. While the two of them go to fight, Spud and Trixie go out to perform. The show must go on and, all that jazz. Once again, the dragons win the fight, but this time Rose's leg is injured, so she doesn't return, causing Jake to have the kiss scene with Spud. Without a doubt, an unforgettable moment for Jake. Back at school, Jake musters up his courage and asks Rose on a date, and her response? Yes! What a score for Jake!
To go out on a real date sometime. Just you and me.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Alright, let's have a look at episode 7, Professor Rotwood's thesis, which begins with Rotwood capturing a fight between the American dragon and the Huntsgirl. Remember that the professor is obsessed with the magical world and has spent his entire life looking for evidence, so this is a huge achievement for him. The next day, during his class, Rotwood gives all his students a copy of the photo he managed to capture of the dragon and tells them that anyone who brings him physical evidence of the creature will win a $500 reward. You heard that right, $500. 500, baby! That same afternoon, the trio is playing video games at Trixie's house when they accidentally break their mother's most valuable crystal. Scared out of their minds, they quickly go to the crystal store to find and buy a crystal just like the one they broke. But when they hear the price, oh man, $600.
Did you just say $600?
They barely have $16.63. It's obvious they need money. So Jake, Spud, and Trixie start working. They paint houses, clean car windshields, dance on the subway, even sell lemonade. But they only manage to raise $6. They're starting to lose hope. But Jake comes up with a brilliant idea. The teacher's $500 reward. He doesn't say anything and runs off to take photos. Of course, photos of him as a dragon. Jake shows the photos to the professor as evidence, but he doesn't believe him. He says they're too good to be real. Jake tries again, but this time he gives him dragon scales, and he doesn't believe that either. Wow, you can tell that he's quite an expert in dragons. On the way home, Jake runs into the Huntsgirl and they have a fight, which ends in Jake getting knocked out and falling from the roof of the building right in front of Spud and Trixie, who just happen to be walking by.
Come on, Spudinky. Don't just stand there. Grab the head.
The two friends, surprised to see a dragon, do not think twice and take it to Professor Rotwood, and that's how easily they got $500. All is well, until the set of friends head over to Jake to tell him the news. But well, obviously that doesn't work out too well, and the two figure out that Jake is the dragon. Aw man, what a mess.
Look at this. The dragon is Jake.
Without knowing it, they just exchanged their friend for money. Trixie and Spud run back to the professor and try to convince him to return the dragon to them, but he refuses. So they go to Gramps for help and manage to save him. However, now Trixie and Spud know a lot about the magical world, so Fu creates a potion to erase their memories. But Jake trusts his friends and decides not to give them the potion. He knows his secret is safe with them. The 9th episode, Dragon Summit, begins with Jake pushing suitcases with Gramps and Fu through the train station as they are on their way to the islands of Draco, to the World Dragon Consulate. Upon arrival, Gramps tells Jake that he has to make a good first impression, since he's the first American dragon to be in that place. However, Jake does the opposite and causes a disaster because of another boy. Once inside the consulate, Jake is judged for causing problems in the human world, such as revealing his identity to his friend and for inviting a Nix to his school dance.
Hey, can you blame the kid? She was hot.
So he is put to the test. He must pass 2 of the 3 assigned challenges: the test of judgment in fire, the test of wisdom in battle, and the test of courage in fight. On the way out, Jake sees the boy who previously caused him trouble, and Fu reveals to him that this boy is the first Australian dragon. Jake wants revenge and plays some harmless pranks on him, but the Australian dragon does the same, and thus a prank battle begins.
dub.
After some pranks, Jake is called to begin with his first test, the test of judgment and fire, which he fails.
That be a pass or a fail?
However, Jake doesn't give it any importance. He thinks this is absurd, until Gramps tells him that if he fails the other two, he will no longer be able to be his mentor. Jake starts practicing with Fu's help, when Grandpa explains that there are 13 major threats for the magical world. The fourth place goes to the Huntsclan, but the first place goes to the Dark Dragon. Nobody knows who he is, and the only dragon that's been able to fight him is Gramps. In the second test, Jake fights brownies and wins by remembering that these little creatures have a particular taste for shiny things. For the third and final test, Jake will have to fly the perimeter of the island by passing through 3 magical rings and avoiding the obstacles he finds along the way. It sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? But there's a catch. To win, Jake will have to fly faster than his competitor, which, by the way, he will have to choose himself. Even though Fu recommends Jake choose the weakest dragon, Jake chooses Nurk, the Australian dragon.
I want Nurk.
The test starts, and everything seems to be going well, until out of nowhere, before passing through the last ring, a black hand appears and captures Nurk. Jake tries to save him, but instead meets the Dark Dragon face to face. It was all a trap. Jake and Nurk fight together and manage to escape. However, Jake comes in second and loses the competition. Gramps and Fu congratulate him despite his defeat, but Jake is angry because he would have won if it weren't for the Dark Dragon. Everyone is surprised to hear that the Dark Dragon is back, so after a quick talk, the council forgives Jake and gives him bonus credits that make him pass the test. However, Chang, one of the council members, is not entirely happy about this outcome. Once they are leaving, Gramps tells Jake that he has to be careful, because if the Dark Dragon knew where Jake was, it must be because there's someone spying on them. Back at the volcano, the Dark Dragon is furious because his plan failed. When the spy reveals himself, it's Chang, who tells the dragon not to worry, by stating that Jake will either join them or be destroyed.
All dragons will join us or be destroyed.
Next up, we have episode 12, the ski trip, which begins with Jake and Rose enjoying their first date, where they build a snowman. Everything seems to be perfect. Jake even surprises Rose with a snowman that looks just like her. However, just when they're about to kiss, boom, Rose's phone rings, interrupting the moment.
Sorry, Jake. I have to go.
At school, Jake tells Trixie and Spud about his date, stating that it was the best first date ever. But his friends get a little impatient when they hear that they haven't even kissed yet.
I'm growing impatient with this.
Jake comes up with the theory. It's because they're both always so busy. Him with his dragon duties, and Rose, well, Rose with her aerobics or something.
Rose always has aerobics or something.
Jake realizes that his duties as a dragon are interfering with his relationship. That's why he decides to tell Rose the whole truth.
I'm telling Rose I'm a dragon.
Over the weekend, which coincidentally is around the same time as Valentine's Day. However, Trixie thinks it's not a good idea. Upon arriving at the ski lodge, Jake, Trixie, and Spud are looking for their rooms, since they'll spend a few days there as part of the school field trip. Luckily for Jake, Trixie, and Rose, they're all in the same room, which means he'll find out more about her since they surely are gonna have girl talk, right?
I'll give you $10.
Make it 20 and I'll tape record homegirl snoring.
Well, later that day, Jake and his friends are out in the snow when they see Rose. Jake wants to tell her the secret, but he's interrupted by Brad, who gives Rose a rose and takes her to the ski lift. Oof, it looks like Jake has some competition. Jake and Trixie are teaching Spud how to use the ski lift when suddenly they hear a peculiar scream. It turns out that it's the Hunts girl who just captured the abominable snowman. The American dragon confronts her, but she finds it strange that he locates her so effortlessly. She claims that the dragon is following her.
I swear you were following me.
The Hunts girl manages to escape, but in the process of doing so, she drops her ski pass. This surprises Jake because only the students who are part of the ski trip have it.
Only people from our school have those.
This can only mean that Hunts girl goes to the same school as Jake. Knowing this, Jake, Trixie, and Spud decide to set up a bunch of traps to see if Hunts girl falls into them. Traps that consist of having Spud dress up as a leprechaun to see if she goes after him,
I'm a little disturbed by this plan.
or using the lodge microphone to announce that someone called Huntsmaster is calling at the front desk. But neither of these work. Jake and her friends hear Rose tell Professor Rotwood that she lost her ski pass.
Must have lost my ski pass somewhere. Do you think I could maybe get another?
Trixie begins to doubt her, but Jake finds it impossible that Rose is the Huntsgirl. That night, Rose leaves the hotel in the middle of a storm, and Jake goes after her. Outside, Jake loses sight of Rose, so he activates his dragon vision, but only sees the Huntsgirl, and as usual, they have a fight. But this time, the fight is a little different. Jake manages to remove one of her gloves, and he notices that she has the same tattoo that Rose has on her hand. Finally, he realizes the Huntsgirl is Rose.
It's the mark of the Huntsclan. It assures me that I was born to do one thing: slay dragons.
Moving on to episode 16, we have Hong Kong Nights, which begins with Jake in the principal's office for his bad behavior. However, he doesn't get detention. Instead, he has to write a 15-page essay about his role model. Trixie suggests that he write about Gramps. In the store, Gramps asks Jake to clean everything, since they will receive a visit from Counselor Chang, who will give them information about the Dark Dragon. Once Chang arrives, she tells them that they should go to the sewers to talk to a troll who will give them more information. But Gramps doesn't let Jake go. Since he hasn't cleaned the store yet, Jake gets angry because he thinks that's not cool of Gramps, to which Fu decides to show Jake one of his diaries so that he can see what Grandpa was like when he was young, to show him the resemblance between the two.
You know who you sound like, kid? Gramps, back when I first met him.
Fu says that just like Jake, Gramps thought he could take the world all by himself. He was arrogant and conceited, but all that changed when he faced the Dark Dragon. While listening to Fu talk about Gramps' life, Jake realizes that just like 30 years ago, Chang set them up.
She's trying the same thing 30 years later.
Jake is sure that Chang is the Dark Dragon's mysterious spy. Fu and Jake race to rescue Gramps. Once in the sewers, Jake meets Chang, the Dark Dragon, and Gramps, who, you guessed it, is tied up. Chang explains to Jake why he betrayed them. She wants to make the magical world powerful again and overthrow the humans.
Magical creatures once ruled the earth until humans forced us into hiding.
But Jake thinks that both humans and magical creatures can be on the same side, and he proves it with his friends Spud and Trixie, who join the fight. In the end, Jake and his friends are able to defeat the dragon, or, well, they at least make it disappear, just like Gramps did 30 years ago.
Is he gone?
Yeah, for now.
To finish off the first season, we have episode 21, The Hunted. Jake is at school, taking something from his locker when Rose asks him to talk for a moment. However, Jake gets nervous and makes up an excuse to escape from the situation. Outside, Jake confesses to Trixie and Spud that he feels confused and that he doesn't know what to do with Rose. Thinking that the girl he likes is also his mortal enemy is making him go nuts.
It's like I don't know whether to kiss her or to incinerate her with a fireball.
At night, as Jake was flying, he ran into the Huntsgirl, who led him into a trap. Jake is knocked out, and upon waking up, he realizes that he's chained along with other magical creatures, who tells him that they're trapped to be special guests at the Grand Equinox Hunt. The Grand Equinox Hunt is a game that takes place at midnight, where the hunters go in search of their prizes, which in this case is Jake and the other magical creatures, with Jake being the biggest prize of them all.
Slay the dragon! Oh, right. Sorry.
The American dragon tries to distract the Huntsgirl, telling her that she's not as bad as she thinks, and manages to steal the keys from her. Jake and the others escape. Well, more or less, since they're still chained to each other.
Every magical creature for themselves!
The Huntsclan chases them, and despite their differences, Jake and the other magical creatures learn to work together and get to safety. I guess teamwork makes the dream work. However, Jake knows that they're not entirely safe, and decides to create a plan to fight the Huntsclan. But the other magical creatures are not entirely sure about this idea, since they don't know how to fight. Jake decides he's gonna train them, but it doesn't help much, so no one takes a side. The American dragon is captured again, but when Huntsgirl is about to kill him, she finds him very similar to someone else. And while she's distracted, the other magical creatures return to rescue Jake. The Huntsclan retreats, but when Jake thinks the fight is over, he's captured by the Huntsgirl, who ties him to a tree. This time, she's determined to finish him off, but Jake calls her by her name.
Rose! No!
What did you call me?
The Huntsgirl is confused. She doesn't understand how until the American dragon transforms into his human form, revealing who he is. Now Rose knows that her mortal enemy is Jake. The next day, Jake goes to school hoping to talk to Rose. He has a positive attitude since he believes that by not having any more secrets, their relationship will finally work.
More kung fu? Just her and me.
However, Rose is no longer there. She transferred schools and no one knows where she went. Aw, man. I wonder if Jake and Rose will see each other again. Let's continue on to the second season, episode 2, Half Baked. Jake and Gramps are meditating in a park when suddenly Jake sees Rose and runs after her. Rose warns him about an evil plan the Huntsmen are up to, but Jake is only concerned about how she is and runs over to kiss her. When, surprise, surprise, Jake wakes up and realizes that it was all a dream, or something like that, because Jake wakes up with Rose's mask in his hands.
Rose.
Once with Trixie and Spud, Jake tells them what happened, emphasizing that it was not just a dream. It was Rose who somehow tried to contact him. Jake asks Gramps if there's a way to enter Rose's dreams to see if she's okay. Fu tells him that there is indeed a spell, but Gramps refuses to let Jake use it, since he believes it might be a trap. Fu decides to help him, but there's a small problem. He's missing an ingredient to complete the spell. Fu needs the Krylock venom.
Try a what now?
Unfortunately, this creature, half cobra, half scorpion, is impossible to find, since it lives in another dimension. Their only choice is to wait until a portal opens from the Krylock's dimension into theirs. The tricky part is that no one knows when or where it will open. Jake can't wait any longer. He's desperate to find Rose. Trixie and Spud advise him to focus on what is happening in the present, like improving his grades. Jake received an F in cooking class,
I didn't think Miss Park even gave out grades.
but the teacher gave him a second chance. He must prepare 5 dozen cupcakes and sell them at the school carnival, of course. Only if he wants to pass the class. That night, Fu tells Jake that a portal has opened in Central Park and that this is the perfect opportunity to get the ingredient they're missing. Once in the park, Jake manages to get to the poison. In the kitchen, Trixie and Spud are preparing cupcakes while Jake and Fu are preparing the spell. But when they try it, something goes wrong. The spell didn't work.
I'm guessing it didn't work.
Soon, Fu realizes the mistake. The poison was used to make the cupcakes. Instead, he used vanilla for the spell. What a mess.
Venom?
Vanilla.
Fu desperately calls Jake, saying that no one can eat the cupcakes, but it's too late. The people who bought it have already transformed into Krylocks. Jake transforms into a dragon and tries to fight the Krylocks, but Gramps stops him. They aren't monsters, they're still people. Gramps tells them that the only way to fix this is by destroying the actual Krylock.
If you destroy the Krylock, everybody goes back to normal.
To do that, they must use the poison in the cupcakes to open the portal. Jake understands that by doing that, he will lose the only chance he has to find Rose. However, he has no choice. When opening the portal, something strange happens. Jake not only sees the Krylock, but he sees Rose too. It's hard for him to decide, but Jake knows what he has to do.
Sorry.
Go after the Krylock. Jake destroys the creature and saves everyone, but he can't stop thinking about Rose. Jake is sure that Rose might feel the same, and that motivates him to keep going. But will everything get back to normal?
Do you think she feels the same way about you?
I know she does. Wherever she is.
Next up, we have episode 3, The Academy, which begins with Jake, Trixie, and Spud talking about the school's fall ball, when they're interrupted by the Oracle twins, who warn them about the Huntsclan. They suggest Jake set up a trap and attempt capturing a member of the Huntsclan, so he can infiltrate the base and discover what they're up to. Fu has the idea of opening a portal, and his plan works. They manage to capture the 2 trainee members of the Huntsclan.
Who are these clowns?
They appear to be Huntsclan trainees.
Jake and Spud disguise themselves as the trainees, and Fu transports them to the secret Huntsclan Academy. Once at the academy, Jake and Spud learn that their names are number 88 and number 89.
Numbers 88 and 89! You maggots are 2 hours late!
In the first lesson, Jake, or in this case number 88, is called to the front of the class for a demonstration where Rose is present. However, Spud tells Jake that they can't trust her, and they should focus on uncovering Huntsman's secret plan. Jake and Spud sneak away to try to get the information they need, but they're discovered by Rose, who's happy to see Jake. But she's also mad since what they're doing is very dangerous. Jake asks Rose if she knows anything about the plan, but she doesn't. However, she decides to help them get the information they need. Back at the store, Fu is keeping an eye on the 2 trainees who are locked in some sort of electric cage.
You know, you can't treat us like this. It's like totally barbaric.
But they do manage to escape. At the academy, Jake and Spud find themselves in trouble again after causing an explosion during the laboratory class.
You have failed the lab test.
As punishment, they are sent to fight the Kraken in a huge arena. Luckily for these 2, Rose decides to help them by switching off the lights. It sounds dumb, but it actually gave time for Jake to transform into a dragon and defeat the creature. During lunch, 2 girls fight over Spud since they both want to go to the dance with him. You know, I never would have expected girls to fight over someone named Spud, but I guess anything's possible. Go Spud.
Go, ladies! Fight! fight for the trophy that is me!
Rose asks Jake if he wants to go with her, and of course he accepts. Jake is very happy, but his happiness disappears when Rose tells him that it's only to get the information they need, since the ballroom is located right above the computer room. During the dance, Rose creates a distraction while Spud successfully acquires the information they need.
Yes! Alright, let's get out of here.
They have everything and it's time to leave the place, but Jake doesn't want to leave Rose, so he goes back to her. Meanwhile, the real number 88 and 89 appear, and they discover that Jake is an imposter. Jake transforms into a dragon and tries to escape, but he fails and gets locked up. Taking advantage of the situation, the huntsmen tell Rose that if she wants to rejoin him, she will have to slay the dragon.
You and this dragon will fight to the finish.
Later, Rose tries to help Jake escape, but he refuses. He doesn't want to leave Rose in that place, even though that means she will need to end his life. Jake tells her not to worry and to trust him. As Rose asks if he has any last request, Jake kisses her. Finally! Better late than never, dude. The fight begins, and just as they had planned, Rose slays Jake, leaving him on the floor.
This dragon is slain!
Spud goes looking for his friend but sees what happened and can't believe what Rose has done. When Rose enters the room, Spud complains to her, but Rose tells him to calm down since Jake is still alive. Rose explains that she and Jake hatched a plan. They used a potion to make him look dead. After some time, Jake wakes up and Rose teleports them back to the school, their real school. Once there, Jake meets Rose again. He's delighted to see her back. Cue the tears of relief. No, sighs of relief, actually. Do people cry in relief? I don't know. Let's have a look at episode 6, Breakout. Jake and Rose are both walking through the park, racking their brains on how to spend more time together, without making it obvious for the Huntsclan to discover that she's dating a dragon. Just then, they spot number 88 and 89 who are trying to escape from a giant snake. Jake transforms into a dragon, and with the help of Rose, they defeat the creature. However, 88 and 89 are confused to see Rose helping a dragon, and they run to report this to the huntsman. The next day at school, Jake and Rose are assigned to work together on a project.
Eye of the dragon.
And even though it is a bit risky, Rose accepts it. At the store, Jake notices that he has a pimple on his face and he panics. Gramps and Fu tell him that it's normal. Every 10 years, dragons change their skin. That it's one of the side effects Jake will experience as a dragon, having many pimples all over his body. Jake had no idea about this and he panics even more.
I have a molting cycle?
However, Gramps tells Jake that he has to focus on more important things, like the snake he saw, since the creature contains one of the 3 mystic skulls. It is believed that the skulls, if ever brought together, will spell certain doom for all magical creatures.
That's gotta be what the huntsman's been planning.
Jake understands everything. That's the plan the huntsman has been hatching. Meanwhile, Rose also finds out about the plan and tries to tell Jake everything she knows, but Jake avoids her. His skin situation has gotten worse. There's no way Jake will let her see him while he's changing his skin.
Oh man, is it that noticeable?
Later at the store, Fu tells Jake that Rose gave him some information about the snake. That night, Jake will have to go to Central Park, fight the creature, and get the skull back. Once there, Jake encounters the snake, 88, 89, and the Hunts girl.
Oh, looky who it is. Hunts girl's BFF forever.
They all want the same thing, the skull. However, Jake is able to get it, of course with the help of Rose. Back at the Huntsclan base, 88 and 89 accuse Rose of helping the dragon. They even think that this is the same dragon that Rose slayed at the arena. The huntsman thinks this is impossible, but they want evidence. Rose will have to bring the dragon skin. Otherwise, she will be accused of treason.
You of all people know the consequences of betraying the Huntsclan.
That same night, Rose goes to Gramps' store to warn Jake that the huntsman is looking for him. Aware of the threat, Jake knows he must leave the store and find a safe place to hide the skull. In the midst of his escape attempt, the huntsmen discover him and a fight breaks out. The huntsman manages to knock Jake down, but just as he's about to retrieve the skull, Rose intervenes and knocks him out. Rose knows that she will no longer be able to stay in the city and says goodbye to Jake.
I guess this is goodbye. For good.
But it's not too late. Jake comes up with an idea. Rose needs to give his changing skin to the huntsman to restore his trust. The idea works.
Well done.
And once again, they manage to get away with it. However, they realize they gotta be more careful. So Rose gives Jake a dream bracelet so they can see each other in their dreams. That's pretty cute, isn't it? Episode 9, Dreamscape, starts with Jake, Trixie, and Spud in the library. To say the least, Jake has a lot to study. to be able to pass Professor Rotwood's class, considering he skipped most of his classes to go on dates with Rose instead. Rotwood assigned Jake an essay about one of the most brilliant minds in science. The problem is he didn't tell him who the person is because his intention is to make Jake fail. Aw, man.
How do you expect me to pass?
That's the thing, Mr. Long. I don't.
If only he could read minds. Oh, wait a minute. He can. That same night, Jake, with Rose's help, uses the bracelets and enters Rotwood's dreams. After seeing some memories of his childhood and youth, they find an envelope that seems to contain what Jake needs. However, just as they're about to leave, they encounter a chimera, a mythical creature with 3 heads. Thankfully, though, they manage to escape. The next day at school, Jake notices that everyone's in a bad mood. Rose tells him that it's most likely because of the chimera, but Jake doesn't believe it. Rose asks him if he closed the door while leaving Rotwood's dreams, but Jake said that he didn't do it. He had no idea about it.
Did you remember to close the door on the way out?
In the store, Gramps scolds Jake for letting the creature escape, while Fu creates a potion that will help capture it. Jake, Rose, Trixie, and Spud re-enter the dream world. The grand plan is to track Chimera and to go to Gramps' dreams, to take the potion and get a hold of the creature. Once with the potion, Jake and the others follow the beast, who enters Spud's dreams. The boys try to capture it, but just when they're about to do it, they wake up. All because of Rotwood.
Look who I've caught breaking and entering into the school library.
After distracting the professor, they go back to the dream, but Jake loses the potion. While he looks for it, Rose decides to distract the creature by taking it to her dreams. There, Rose gets to see one of her oldest memories and realizes that her parents are not dead. It was all a lie. It was the Huntsclan who took her away from her family.
My parents didn't die. The Huntsclan took me from them.
In the end, Jake manages to capture the chimera, but Rose can't stop thinking about what she saw. She needs to find her family. Also, side note, this bracelet is leading to a lot more Inception stuff than I could have ever imagined. If you didn't follow everything there, I don't blame you. Just know the Huntsclan took Rose's parents. Episode 15, Rotwood Flies. Rotwood is fired from the school, all because of Jake. He's soon replaced by Brock, who seems to be a very cool teacher, but he's keeping a secret. Brock confesses to Jake that, like Rotwood, he's a researcher of magical creatures and is after the dragon that Rotwood supposedly saw. And on top of that, Brock is sure that Jake is the dragon.
But I don't know anything about dragons.
But you do, Jake. You do.
To prove it, he creates a potion, which when ingested reveals the person's secret identity. Okay. Brock wants Jake to take it, but luckily for him, other students enter Brock's office, interrupting the moment. Jake knows this is a big problem. He has to get rid of Brock as soon as possible.
Anytime you want to talk, Jake.
After school, Jake is walking home when he suddenly runs into Rotwood. After talking for a while, Jake learns that Brock was Rotwood's teacher in his youth. And just as much as him, Rotwood doesn't like Brock either, so the professor decides to help him. The plan is to steal the potion that Brock has, which makes a person change into his dragon form. However, they fail the first and second attempt. Well, on their second attempt, Rotwood finds out that it was Jake's fault that he got fired, so he betrays him by joining forces with Brock. That's a plot twist.
My new assistant assures me.
Jake, Trixie, and Spud continue without Rotwood, but fall into a trap and get locked in a cell. Brock wants to show everyone that he has finally discovered the existence of dragons, so he takes the boys to a school event. Once there, disaster breaks out.
Children in a cage!
That cage is an outrage!
Everyone is furious to see the boys in a cell, but Brock continues with his demonstration. Rotwood assures them that Spud is the dragon. Brock, who trusts Rotwood, throws the potion at Spud, but nothing happens. That's when the police arrive and arrest Brock for treating the boys that way, and of course, he's fired. The next day at school, Jake thanks Rotwood for his help. But wait, Rotwood drops the last bit of potion on Jake's arm and he transforms. Rotwood now knows the truth. Aw, man.
I will find a way to expose you myself one day.
In the episode The Love Cruise, the whole school prepares for a special night on a cruise, and of course, Jake only thinks about how much fun he'll have with his boo, Rose. Gramps is bothered though, as he notices that Jake is very distracted, so he decides to talk with Rose. He asks her to break the relationship with his grandson, to keep it strictly professional. Oof, come on, Gramps.
If you truly care for my grandson, you will do what is best for him.
Later, Jake meets up with Rose and asks her about the cruise, to which she tells him that it's better not to go together, but to trust her.
Then just trust that I really have feelings for you.
At the store, Jake, Spud, and Trixie are talking about who they're taking on the cruise, when suddenly a magical creature appears. It's Cupid, who asks Jake to watch over his bow and arrows while he goes on a vacation. Spud takes advantage of the situation and asks Jake if they can use the love arrows on Stacy, so she agrees to go with him. Despite not being very sure about this, Jake reluctantly accepts. Once on the cruise, Jake looks for Rose, but soon he realizes that she's with Brad. Oh, wait a minute. That's pretty disheartening. But Rose did tell Jake to trust her, so yeah. Despite this, Jake focuses on what he came here for, helping Spud. Jake tries shooting some arrows to see how it works, and after a few tries, he thinks he's ready.
Well, can't have too much love. This is gonna be the best cruise ever!
So he asks Spud and Trixie to go near their partners. Jake shoots the arrows, and it works. Now Jake wants to try the same with Rose. But when he tries on her, it doesn't work. Something went wrong. Rose now hates him.
Prepare to be slain, dragon.
Jake walks away as far as he can and spots Fu, who explains that the arrows have the opposite effect on people who are already in love. On one hand, Jake is really happy to hear this, but on the other, he's now got to solve his problem. Meanwhile, Rose is going crazy. She even calls the Huntsclan to tell them that she knows the identity of the American dragon and asks for backup.
I also know the human identity of the American dragon.
This is getting out of control. Jake has to shoot another arrow at Rose to break the spell, but it's not that easy, since she only cares about fighting. However, he's able to do it with Spud and Trixie's help, just before Rose reveals Jake's identity to the other Huntsclan. Whew, that was close. We are on to the last 2 episodes, so let's see how it pans out. Episode 20, Homecoming, starts with Spud and Trixie looking for partners for the homecoming dance, while Jake is looking for Rose, when one of the teachers interrupts him to inform him that he and Rose have been nominated to be the king and queen of the dance.
King and queen? Groovy.
But that's as far as the good news goes. The Huntsclan has found out about another one of the Mystic Skulls, and if they find all 13, they will have the absolute power to banish all magical creatures. Oh man.
Whoever possesses all 13 is granted one irreversible wish.
But no worries, Jake's on the case. Jake's plan is to recover and destroy them all. And so far, Jake has already been able to recover 3 skulls. At school, Spud and Trixie have an awkward moment. Because of a misunderstanding, they kiss in the kissing closet.
Bud! Trixie?
Meanwhile, the huntsman finds out that Rose has been helping the American dragon all this time, and they declare her a traitor, giving 88 and 89 the mission of monitoring her.
It appears we have a traitor in our midst.
Jake and Rose don't have the slightest idea about all this, because they're busy in their own matters. That is, making Rose leave the Huntsclan and find her real family. Rose returns to the Huntsclan after an order, without imagining what was going to happen. The Huntsmen know everything, and they threaten her. He told Rose that if she doesn't want anything bad to happen to her real family, she will have to help them find the missing skulls. In short, Rose will have to betray Jake.
Bring me those skulls tonight.
At the dance, Jake is looking for Rose since it will soon be announced who wins for Queen and King, but he receives a call. Fu tells him that the huntsman destroyed Grandpa's store and took the 3 skulls, all because Rose helped them. Jake is disappointed, but he doesn't have much time to digest all this, because the dance is interrupted by the Huntsclan. Jake fights against the Huntsclan, and in turn against Rose. But soon, Jake understands why she's doing all this. It's because of her family. Despite Jake's efforts, the huntsmen manage to activate the power of the skulls. But just when the huntsmen are about to wish for all magical creatures to be destroyed, Rose shoots him with the intention to destroy him. Whew. Jake, knowing that her wish will make her disappear, wishes for Rose to have never been a part of the Huntsclan and that she has grown up with her family.
I wish Rose was never taken by the Huntsclan.
But it doesn't work. The next day, while leaving school, Jake, as distracted as he is, bumps into someone, Rose. In the end, the wish did work. Although she no longer remembers him since they never met, that doesn't really matter anymore because Rose is moving to Hong Kong. That's what I call a bittersweet ending. At last, we have the final episode of the series, The Hong Kong Longs. The entire Long family, Trixie and Spud, are on a family vacation in Hong Kong. Yeah, in the same city where Rose is. The perfect opportunity to see her again. Jake is ready to relax and enjoy. However, Gramps has other plans to attend the mandatory dragon meeting, which only happens once every 1,000 years. Yeah, that's once every millennium.
On that night, all of the world's dragons gather there for a mandatory meeting.
The next day, Jake and his family are visiting different corners of the city since Jonathan, Jake's dad, is the tour guide. Since, he's the one with the books, everything is going well until Jonathan swipes a magical book from Gramps. While Haley and Susan deal with him since he doesn't know that his family belongs to the magical world, Gramps is kidnapped by Counselor Chang and Bananas B, a monkey. Jake, Spud, and Trixie try to rescue him, but only end up walking straight into the dark dragon trap.
I got a feeling that we just walked into a
trap.
Jake tries to fight him, but to no avail. He doesn't have enough strength. The dark dragon tells Jake that if he wants his grandfather back, he must help him with something. Tomorrow, during the traditional Millennium Toast, Jake will have to pour a potion into all the dragon's drinks and make sure everyone takes it.
And if I don't,
You will never see your grandfather again.
Jake is in trouble. He knows that alone he won't be able to defeat the dark dragon. He needs help. And who better than Rose to assist him? Trixie, Spud, and Foo think he's crazy. Because after Jake's wish, Rose was never a Hunts girl. How can she help him? Jake still has high hopes. And he knows she's still a natural dragon slayer.
she still has the birthmark. She's still a natural dragon slayer.
Jake goes looking for Rose and tries to make her remember her past life, but she only thinks that Jake has gone off the deep end. At the hotel, Trixie, Spud, and Jake's family await his return, and it is getting late for the meeting. Meanwhile, Haley transforms into her dragon form to practice for the fight, but isn't careful enough and is seen by Jonathan. Well, that is just great. Jonathan just found out that his entire family is made up of magical creatures.
You should probably sit down. Or lie down.
Jake arrives at the meeting, and just as the dark dragon told him, he pours the potion into the dragon's drinks. All of a sudden, the dark dragon appears and gives a toast. He wants all the dragons to unite and rule the magical world. Of course, in his mind, he thinks that he has complete control over everyone's minds because of the potion. But what he doesn't know is that Jake poured a fake potion. Nice move, kid.
I ditched your potion and gave them a little local specialty instead. Transformation tea.
The fight begins. It's everyone against the dark dragon. But it's not enough. He's too powerful. But at the last moment, Rose, Rose, comes in with the assist. And with her help, they manage to defeat the dark dragon. Score for the dragons. And for Jake. Because Rose remembers him and kisses him. Aw, what an ending. I hope you all enjoyed this recap as much as I did. And if you liked the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on what show you'd like to see recap next. Thanks for watching. See ya!